Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community was the JGTC. That's a really hard an acronym to say. Subaru Impreza race car. Now, I'm going to take this time to say that there was a rather large number of connection issues on the evening that this was all filmed for. Basically, the internet was being terrible. The first race, we could only get 13 people connected, I think. Any more than that, they just kept disconnecting. The second race, normally when we do this, we start at about 7 o'clock and we will finish at about quarter past, half past 8, if everything runs relatively smoothly. The second race didn't start until about quarter past or half past 8. I can't remember the exact time. That is how long it took us to get everyone connected. We just about got everybody connected. We started the race, and then after like the first two corners, half the lobby got dropped out. So we then had to go through all the process of getting everybody connected again and restarted it. It was a real pain. The third race as well, we had a few issues getting people connected. We got it started. It was an absolutely atrocious race. Someone didn't go off the start line. Everybody was shouting, so we couldn't warn anybody. There was a stricken car there. There was a big crash. Lots of things were broken. People were going the wrong way around the track. And then I had a power cut on like the second to last lap. So yeah, I ended up doing the third race. It was like 9, half 9 or something stupid by the time we got the third race done. I ended up doing that again with just a few people that I knew could get connected. So it has not been the smoothest evening of racing for this stuff. Anyway, we start with the first race. This was at the Silverstone GP circuit, and I apologise, the replay cameras are really bad on this track. I say really bad. They focus very heavily on whatever car it is that you have selected, and the problem is they don't sort of show a wider picture very well on this first section of track, which makes trying to choose an angle for this opening lap was really tricky. It was always likely to be busy. I mean, these are very good handling cars. They have a lot of downforce. They have very good brakes. They don't have too much power, so you're not likely to lose control of them particularly. As I say that, there's someone going sideways in the background. They only have about 335 horsepower, so yeah, they're not that powerful, and coupled with all the downforce, they are relatively easy cars to drive. And that's the reason why I just chose to run these cars on their own. I do not like running race cars for race series. We got through the first section relatively cleanly. There was one incident at the end of the hangar straight. You saw there a couple of cars off. There was a little bit of sort of panel rubbing, and there was a bit of aero damage around, but it wasn't massive amounts, which is good, which I'm pleased to see. The problem with running race cars, the reason why I don't like running race cars particularly, is you never get as close racing, or at least you don't get as close racing with large groups of people when you run race cars, because there are such fine margins of error with these things. Even with these cars, these are probably the best for it because they have got such good brakes, such good downforce, and not a huge amount of speed. Someone decides to cut the corner a little bit there. But with faster ones, there are such fine margins of error that you really have to know exactly what you are doing. You can't brake a tad late, otherwise you're just going to go straight off. Whereas if you're racing B-class cars or C-class cars, or whatever, if you brake 10 metres too late, you'll probably just run a little bit wide. So yeah, I don't like running race cars. It won't be a regular thing particularly because it is more fun. You get a lot closer racing with lower class of cars. Anyway, back to the racing question. After the first lap, I had started on second. I had managed to get a good start, had the lead by the first corner, and then was fairly gone by the end of the first lap. Although I'm not immune to mistakes as I run a little bit wide out of the first corner. Yeah, it was a fairly lonely race for me. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Silverstone. I mean, I've driven it a lot now since when we had Tudor Tuesday around here a long time ago. I'm kind of driven a lot of the track now, but yeah, I'm still not a massive fan of this track. Although it is a good track for overtaking. There are plenty of overtaking opportunities. Now, this race, normally what happens with our races is you have the first lap sort of mayhem, and a few cars will be broken at the back, and then everybody will spread out throughout the field as they kind of find their lap time sort of based on their driver's skill. So you end up having sort of groups of people or people driving around on their own. This one was a little bit weird, it's a little bit different. We ended up with a large train of cars. Each car was sort of like 200 feet or closer to the car in front and to the car behind. Yeah, it was a little bit strange. We had a lot of cars in this rather long train. As we come down towards the first corner, someone's going to try to go all the way around the outside. That's a very brave move, trying to do that. It's not quite going to work this time. It was a nice try. You can go around the outside of cars, in these cars in particular, because they have so much grip. But your first corner at Silverstone, that is a little bit ambitious. As you can see, the field is really quite closely bunched up. Even for, I think this is the third lap maybe? yeah, the field is still really quite close, which is surprising. Normally it's a lot more spread out. There is one car did get broken. I'm not sure how he got broken, but he was parked up. I'm not sure if he got spun by somebody, but yes, someone did get broken. You can see him parked up on the infield. Now we've got the red Subaru is trying to. He's going to have a look at going the way around the outside. He's going to have a look at the cutback. He's not quite close enough. It's actually, these cars have got such powerful brakes, they catch you out. You brake a lot earlier, although it's the first few times you drive, you brake these a lot earlier than you actually need to, because yeah, they're incredibly powerful brakes. So I think this is a couple of laps later on. The red car had a bit of an off, and he's now found himself in a battle with. I quite like the livery on the purple and black livery. That's a very cool livery. The opening section of this track is very, very tricky to overtake on, coming through the Mags and Beckett section. It's also, they are fantastic corners in these cars when they have such huge amounts of downforce. It's a really, really fun section. Don't quite know how the purple and black car gets such a good run out of this corner. I've never seen quite such a spectacular run out of there. And it didn't look like he had a particularly good line either. I don't quite know how he managed that one. Maybe the red car has damage, possible, but I don't think he did at this point. So yeah, that's a very impressive overtake to manage to get that much speed out of that corner. This is the battle for, oh god, can I remember? I think this is for fourth now. This raged on for quite a while. It's a bit of a lunge into the chicane. They give each other space, which is something that will become kind of important later on. It's nice to see people actually giving each other enough space around here. And yeah, you can overtake quite well at Silverstone. There's a number of good overtaking opportunities, which makes this quite a good race. I prefer this layout, the old Silverstone layout, to the new one they have in Formula 1. I don't know, I just prefer this layout for actual racing. As I said, this first section is very, very tricky to overtake through, unless the car in front makes a mistake, like that one. Yeah, it's a great section in these cars because it's so sort of fast and flowing, but if you get it wrong, if you get like one corner wrong, you screw yourself over 3 corners down the line and end up going really badly wrong. In the background, you might have seen there was a little bit of a spin. Well, this is what happened. There is some terrible sticky stuff in a really bad place there, which means if you run a little bit wide, you then sort of cause a problem because your car is almost stationary in the middle of the road. Then they didn't give each other enough space, got both of them spun round. The black and purple car did a very good job of avoiding him. The red car didn't get so lucky. Yeah, that's why you've got to give each other enough space. So it's very tricky to overtake through there. It's a little bit of an ambitious move, but if they're giving each other enough room, then you wouldn't have lost that many places. Let's put it like that. Anyway, back at the front, as I said, I had a very lonely race. I had pulled a fairly large margin over second place, who had pulled a fairly large margin over third place. So it was a fairly straightforward race. Also love how the liveries on these cars managed to get screwed up. I'm not sure why. You may have seen in the sort of the opening shot, the back of this car is fine, yet when you look at it in the replay, it has the first gear sticker is like mirror image while the stripes are in the wrong place. So I don't know what's going on with that, and other people as well were complaining about slightly dodgy liveries. So we move on to race number 2 after everybody had eventually got connected. Oh good god, this took a long time, and things weren't really perfect off the start. We all got through the first corner kind of okay, and then there was some weird laggy incident, and I'm not really sure what happened here that broke a few cars. I think there were 5 cars that were fairly damaged. I don't know, I'm going to guess that was lag assisted, to be honest. You just can't tell quite what happened. It's pretty tricky through there anyway at the best of times, because it's a fairly fast corner, but yeah, I don't know really what went on. Anyway, there was some kind of close battling going into the hairpin. I was expecting there to be a big crash here. I was always nervous about running Hockenheim because, yeah, the hairpin is a great place to overtake, but there's also potential, shall we say, for a rather large crash. Amazingly, everybody got through there relatively well. I don't think there was any contact. I think the car that we were following ran a little bit wide, but everybody got through there the first time very well. There is some lag going on. You'll see in front there's a Subaru that's jumping all over the place. And the problem is, I'm not sure who his fault it is, because different cars were lagging on different people's screens. I think this Rally Impreza that you see lagging about a lot was causing some of the issues with the connection, but I honestly don't know. If you look at, I suspect if you looked at different people's replays, different cars would be lagging. It wasn't the most successful evening. Let's put it like that. But there was still some good racing going on. There was still some close racing as somebody runs wide through there. Yeah, the lag did cause a few issues in this second race. But yeah, people were still able to have a bit of a good race. at the front, and I couldn't break away this time. As you see, we did have a fairly big margin back to third, because we just avoided all of that first corner mayhem. Again, I'd been lucky. I'd started on pole, I think, this time around, and had, well, me and the guy behind got through the first corner without any issues. But I was having to go very defensive for this race. In fact, this is pretty much how the entire race was for me, was defend like mad. As you can see, it was a really close race, a very, very enjoyable race. So I'm sort of trying to hug the inside. I now got to try and kind of park my car on the apex, make sure he can't do a cutback. And that's just about worked. You can see he's trying to get a better drive out of the corner, but can't quite. Next corner, you're not going to overtake through there. You don't want to go too wide through here. It's a very fast corner. We're taking flat out easily in these cars. And again, now got to get ready to defend for the next corner. It's actually quite hard to overtake at this particular corner, although you can do it. He's now on the inside for the next corner, but can't quite get a good enough drive, so I don't have to worry too much through there. Hockenheim's a pretty good place for racing. It's a good place for overtaking. I actually quite like this track. You can overtake through here, but it's very risky as the track's very narrow through this bit. It's kind of weird. It goes from being really, really wide in the opening stages, and then through here it's actually very, very narrow. Again, you can overtake into the hairpin if you are close enough. I go a little bit defensive. This is my favourite overtaking spot, this corner here. If I was in second, I would have had a dive up the inside there. You can make quite a lot of places because people don't think to go defensive. As you saw, I didn't go defensive there, particularly. Yeah, that's my favourite move at Hockenheim, is to use that corner, just to catch people out. Further back, there was quite a lot of broken cars in this race. There was, yeah, as you saw at the start, I think there were 4 cars that took quite a whack in that first whatever on earth went on. And then as the race went on, there was some more issues. I think quite a lot of it was caused by laggy cars. Basically, the cars were jumping about and you were never quite sure where they were, which meant that they would often suddenly appear in front of you and then break all of your engine and then jump off again into the distance, which, yeah, meant that this wasn't the best of races, I'm going to be honest. There was still some overtaking, there was still some clean racing. It's very hard for me to tell who has damage and who doesn't and quite what levels of damage. That's how you do a nice clean overtaking to the hairpin and everybody gives each other space. It's nice to see that. Because the problem is I can look at the telemetry and I can show you what the game reckons was happening at this time, but if you then skip through the replay and you go back to the same car and then you take a look again, the damage would have changed. So yeah, the pink car looks like it's smoking and it is possible that it did have damage, but I don't know really what was going on. Either way, there was still some good racing, still some good overtaking going on with these cars. As I said, these cars are fantastic to drive, so you really should have a go with them if you haven't driven one before. You might have forgotten about them, but yeah, they are great fun to drive. As you can see again, there is some more laggy jumpiness from one of the Imprezas. It's very, very hard when you are following a laggy car to kind of do anything about it, especially if you're quicker, because you can't kind of overtake it because you never quite know where it's going to be. Which, yeah, that was causing a few issues as well. But yeah, it's a shame. I really hope Forza 5, the servers will be reliable and connections will be good. That is one of the things I'm most looking forward to, is having working online racing. That'll be lovely. Anyway, we go back towards the front, and as you will have noticed, in all the battling between me and first and second, we have slowed each other down quite considerably, and you can see in third there is a blue Impreza who has been catching up to us the entire time. You can see he's quite a lot closer than he was last time we went to the lead battle. Yeah, this battle had gone on for 6 laps, I think. I think this was a 6-lap race. We were now catching up to some back markers as well. These are the cars that have been damaged in that first lap incident, which was making things a little bit scarier for us, because you're never quite sure what they're going to do. You hope that they're going to get out of your way, but you never quite know what's going on. Luckily, we both got past the first one without too many issues, and then again, it's on to the very, very long straight, and I've got to go defensive yet again. I literally spent my entire race defending. This is like a 10-12 minute race, and the entirety of the time defending from the same car. Again, we go into the hairpin. Ignore the locking up of all the brakes. I think yes, I managed to park my car on the apex and defend that. There's, again, this is the replays being funny. You cannot lock your brakes up like that and still get turned and stopped. He was not locking his brakes up like that. That was just the replay lying, basically. And there's quite a lot of that happens on Forza replays. I'm not quite sure why it is. Again, there, if you lock your brakes up like that, you are going off into the gravel trap and visiting the crowd, because you're not going to get your car turned at all. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Then everything gets a little bit messy. We have caught up to a back marker at the most terrible time. This is really not a good place to be catching up to a back marker who has a damaged car. I end up having to kind of brake and duck out of it. The guy in second tries to go the long way round, and as he does that, the back marker is trying to move out of the way from me, doesn't realise where the guy in second's going to go. In the end, we both lose time, but we don't we lose time, but we lose the same amount of time each. The big winner in all of that was the guy in third, who was now right up behind us. We come out the final corner, though. I am going to take the second wing of the evening. It was a very, very enjoyable race. Another lap or two, and it would have been a three-way battle for the lead. Fastest lap went to the blue Subaru behind us. All three of us, our fastest laps were covered by 0.2 of a second. It was very close between all of us. Anyway, race 3. We eventually got race 3 underway. Oh god, it took forever. Daniel actually came online amazingly for the third race. He actually turned up for one. This is a miracle. And we're following his car now. It gets rather difficult trying to pick out Daniel from the crowd of other cars with the standard livery. This time I hadn't been lucky, and I'd started in like 8th. On the one race that I wanted to do well in, because I love the Infineon NASCAR circuit, I'd started down in 8th, I think. Although there were only 10 cars in this race. As we go, sort of, this is the first real good overtaking opportunity down there. Again, there's another example of not giving each other enough room. Nobody particularly lost anything out of that one, but yeah, in the background you would have seen there was a blue Impreza that got slightly tagged and spun around, and amazingly again everybody managed to avoid him, and well done to him for actually waiting for everybody to go past before setting off again. Yeah, I don't know how we all avoided collecting him, because he basically spun from third in front of the rest of the entire field. So yeah, that was a little bit scary. Another very good overtaking opportunity is into the final corner here, as Daniel tries and outbrakes himself quite a lot. I'm surprised he managed to outbrake himself quite that much into there. He's trying to kind of get a little bit of a cutback, get a better drive out of the corner, but can't quite get it done, but he's very, very close. First corner here is a tricky one to overtake at. It's very, very fast, very little braking. Daniel's trying to go all the way around the first part and then try to go around the outside of the next bit as well, and they're not going to work. Eventually just ran out of grip and couldn't get his car stopped in time. I had managed to make my way up to, let's see, 5th? I think that's 5th. And now there's a big group of cars all with the same livery on, and I'm not really sure who's who. I think Daniel's the one in the middle of this train. I'm trying to guess by how the front camera's following. Yeah, that made things a little bit awkward. This is later on in the same lap, and there was an almighty battle going on over kind of 2nd and 3rd and 4th, and I'm in 5th. And this is possibly my best overtake I have done, managing to go all the way around the outside of that incredibly fast corner, and I'm still on the outside. I outbrake myself a little bit. The car in front outbrakes himself even more and clatters the wall, but I think he gets away without any major damage. And now I'm on the inside for the next part. Yeah, I've never gone around the outside of somebody on that fast corner. It's a great corner in these cars. It really is incredibly scary and incredibly fast. At the front, and Daniel gets the brakes wrong into the second corner. The problem with that second corner, I see a lot of incidences there whenever you race it, is that everybody takes a different line through it. Everybody brakes at different points. You can brake, depending on the car, and these is a little bit easier because they have a lot of grip, but you can brake sort of early and get a better run through the first bit and a better line up through the second bit. You can brake later, and yeah, you can have really big incidences there just because people take different lines and brake at different points. It's a tough corner, that one. I don't particularly like the first corner here. It's a bit of a tricky one, especially when you're racing closely with everybody. It didn't seem to matter really what position you were in. There was lots of racing throughout the entire field there. Everybody just kind of ran out of a bit of space. You can't really go through wide through that part of the track. You might have seen anyway, there was a car that fell off the road. I think Daniel had an incident. I'm not sure what happened to him, never saw it. So he ended up at the back of the field. Yeah, there was a lot of good racing throughout the entire field in this one, which is always good. There's another example of just not giving each other enough room when there's a car on the inside. You've got to check before you turn into a corner like that, especially if you're racing closely with other people. You've got to check before you turn in to take that sort of line that there's not a car on the inside. You've got to keep an eye on your rear view mirror, see when somebody's going to take a lunge, and the distance indicator as well, because so many incidences are just avoidable. Luckily no harm was done in that one. In the end, he does a very good move through the first and second corner, but yeah, it's really imperative that you keep an eye on your mirror and on your distance indicator so that you know when there is a car alongside you. at the front, and it was the reverse of Hockenheim. This time it was me that was doing the chasing for once. I fell off the road. I think I fell off the road here, actually. This is another really tough corner. You go over the crest of the hill and you can't see where the track is. The track kind of falls away from you. It's a pretty tough corner to get right. You can see how hard we are all pushing the cars here, trying to get that little extra bit of speed. I'm trying to go around the outside. You're not really going to do that there. Kind of a long corner to try that, and you won't be able to get a really good run into the next bit. Through this section, again, these cars are fantastic through these fast corners. You can take this bit here flat out if you get the line right. It's very scary, but you can do it. If you get it wrong, though, you are in a lot of trouble. I'm then going to try and take another overtake through here. I'm on the inside this time. I think there may have been a little bit of contact, but we got away with it. Again, it's a bit of a brave move trying to get there. We gave each other enough room, just about. I'll then take a lunge into the final corner. He's going to try and do a bit of a cutback, can't quite get it done, and then I have managed to move up to the lead, and I was feeling fairly confident. I love this track. This is well, probably my favourite of the tracks in Forza, or one of them, maybe Iberian, but yeah, I love the track, and I was feeling fairly confident now that I would be able to defend for the next few laps, and then I outbrake myself into the second corner, which was really clever of me. And now he's right back beside me. I've now got to take a bit of a shallow line through here. Just about managed to get my car across in front of him before the next corner. Yeah, again, this was a really exciting race. You see someone in the background. You see what I mean? That corner is really nasty over the top of that hill. You saw somebody having a big slide. Yeah, this race was really, really exciting again. I probably should have gone a bit more defensive here. Luckily, I just about managed to get away with it. Yeah, this race produced some fantastically close racing. Again, this is towards the back of the... I think this is actually Daniel starting to make his way back through the order. A little bit of a cheeky pass there, a little bit of corner extending. Cool, that's one. As he was making his way back up through the road. Again, Infineon is another good track for overtaking. I do like racing around here. You've got plenty of actual sort of sensible overtaking spots. And when I mean sensible overtaking spots, I mean a straight followed by a sort of large braking zone and then a corner. Through these sort of corners is rare to get an overtake. These sort of fast flowing corners is very rare to get an overtake. I mean, you can do it. I have seen it done. I've done it. And you see Daniel here is trying to line up. But the majority of overtaking happens in a braking zone. And the bigger the braking zone, the bigger the opportunity is for overtaking. Here is another example of not giving enough room. You just turn in on the car that's on the inside. And in the end, that time it did... the guy with the black and purple, I won't remember my colours, came off a lot worse that time. So again, it's really important to give each other enough room. Right, as the race progressed, the battle sort of further back calmed down a little bit. I think this is coming on to the final lap, and it was Hockenheim all over again. I think I defended for sort of 4 laps. I can't even remember how many laps. It felt forever just trying to hold this car off behind us. You can see the field was pretty spread out actually at this point, except for at the front where things were incredibly close. As we come up towards the first and second corner, and again it is me making a slight mistake. I just braked a little bit too late. I was pushing my car too hard, and now I've run a little bit wide. Now things aren't looking too good, because again I have to take a fairly shallow line through here trying to defend through this section, which means that I'm slow over the top of the hill, and then that will mean I'm slow going down towards the next corner. He's going to try to go around the outside, which is a pretty brave move through here. However, again, give each other enough space, and there you go. Managed to drive all the way around the outside of me. That's a very impressive overtake. I then take a dive at the next corner, just about get my car stopped in time. He's looking for a bit of a cutback there, but you're not really going to be able to do it on that corner, because the next corner doesn't really favour doing a cutback. Through here, again, going too wide is ill-advised. You might be able to get 2 cars wide through there, but I certainly wouldn't want to try it, especially not on the final lap, because yeah, it's very tough. Through here, I don't actually have a particularly good line through there, though. Luckily, he ran a little bit too wide, carried a little bit too much speed, and is now too far back as we go into the final corner. I'm still defending just to make sure he doesn't try anything. You can see there's 3rd and 4th, quite a way behind, and you can't even see 5th, I don't think. And I'm going to take a 3rd win, so 3 wins out of 3 for me in the Subaru Impreza. Yeah, the second race was the third race was absolutely fantastic. There was a lot of very good racing in that. Second race was also fairly exciting for me. Further back there were a few issues, and the first race was pretty lonely. There were a few incidences, but I think it was still a fairly clean, fairly successful race for our 3 cars. So yes, there we go. That is it for this week's FailRace versus the community. Now, next week's race, it will be held on... I've just got to check the calendar. Oh no, computer, don't freeze on me. There we go. It will be held on Thursday the 29th of August. It will be starting at around 7 PM British summer time. The cars that we will be using are A-Class 4-door Super Saloons. Now, there are many of these in the game, so what I'm going to do is, if you go, when I set up the race, I will go across to car restrictions. It is the final tab on the game options. If you go down, there is a section called Body Family. I will be putting that on Sedan. Now, that will be your choice of cars. There's quite a lot of cars, so I can't bother to list all of them. However, that is how the game is going to be set up. The car restrictions is going to be on the Body Family of Sedan. So they are the cars that you are able to use. I know that might not include absolutely all of them, but on the interest of just having a simple setting I can put on in the game, that is what I'm going to do. So before you build a car up for this, go make your own sort of private race and just go and select that setting and then have a look at the cars that are available. It is most of the 4-door saloon cars. I'm not sure if it's missed any out. But it's a very good selection of cars. I'm going to have its A-Class so that you can have the likes of the M5s, the Mercedes, the Lexuses, and that sort of thing. Could be, well, I say it's likely, it could be a fairly chaotic race, as these are going to be fairly big, fairly powerful, and certainly won't have the levels of grip of this Subaru. So I'm hoping everybody will be sensible. It could be a little bit more chaotic. I'm also hoping that the connections will work. That would be really nice. If you would like to take part in that race, then you can sign up on our forums. That is where we take entrance for this race. Everybody keeps asking, how do we take part? If you watch the end of the videos, you'd blooming know. Yeah, if you sign up on our forums, there is a section under there, FailRace versus the community. There's a thread in there, and that is where you sign up to take part in the races. It is the easiest way of doing things. It is the easiest way of me keeping track of everybody who is wanting to take part. I haven't quite decided on the tracks at the point I am recording this, so that will all be in the forum posts and any other kind of rules and regulations. While I think about it, I am going to be adding a rule in to do with people shouting away in lobbies. This was we haven't really had this much of a problem until, well, this week it was particularly terrible. The example that I'll say is why it is such a problem. Not only is it distracting for everybody, in the Infineon race, the one that I didn't make, the one that got lost, and was absolutely terrible, somebody didn't go off the start line in the car, which is stationary, which is dumb enough as it is. I believe he got collected by somebody, I'm not sure who, but somebody drove into the back of him and there were 2 broken cars on the start line. Now, we were trying to warn people about the fact there were 2 broken cars, but everybody was shouting so much that nobody could hear. So soon enough, as we came around, the guys, me and the few guys at the front got through it absolutely fine, but further back, who hadn't heard, who couldn't hear, or who weren't paying enough attention, ploughed straight into the stricken cars because they didn't expect them to be there, and then there was 4 or 5 broken cars on the start-finish line. And we couldn't tell people, or we were trying to tell people there were broken cars there, but nobody could hear anything because everybody was shouting, and it was just solid noise. I'm pretty sure in the second race I had my microphone pretty much muted, or the volume on it pretty much muted, because there was just so much shouting going on that it was just noise. So yeah, I'm going to make a rule that people are going to have to... I don't have a problem with people talking and stuff, people chatting away, but if you started shouting and screaming at stuff, then you're going to get muted or kicked. So yeah, please just keep the volume down a bit. I don't have a problem with you talking, that's cool, that's fine. But yeah, just don't go shouting and screaming about what's going on, because that does everybody's head in. And it means if there is an incident, that it is very tricky for us to inform everybody. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.